Good morning, this is Rebecca Frazier. I'm going to speak to you today about my spiritual retreat. First, I wanted to show you this is where I did my 3 hours of the retreat. I was a little nervous about the retreat when I first saw this assignment. I was scared that wasn't going to be sure what I was going to do for 3 hours, and staying engaged for 3 hours was scary to me. However, I found that this experience was really a great experience for me, and I'm excited to share it with you today. I focused on 1 Corinthians 13, which led me to other scriptures such as 1 Samuel 12. I focused on 1 Corinthians 13:13, where it says, "Faith and hope and love will last forever, especially love." And in 1 Samuel 12, Samuel addresses the Israel nation, and you see in there that God has love and mercy and wisdom and power through that story, telling the people that they should only believe in that God and not other gods. It's crazy to me. God's love is so radical, and He sent His only Son to die on the cross for us. And thinking about that, it's an overwhelming joy and crazy thought, because of the fact that we don't deserve it, and He still was willing to do that for to save us from our own sins. It reminds me of the song by Crowder, "My Victory," and it talks about in that song the cross was meant to kill, and His blood shed for us, and it was still our victory because He in the end rose again. I've felt a lot of fear in this last couple of weeks, and I'll get into why in a little bit. But I felt a lot of fear, so when looking at some of these verses, it made me feel safer and allowed me to feel comforted in God's love. And then I focused on His love for us, and the strength that God has, heart, soul, and strength that He has. And then in Deuteronomy 6:5, it talks about that we must love the Lord your God with all of our hearts, all of our soul, and all of our mind. And that is amazing to me, because it reassures me that if I can focus just on Him, that everything in this world will fall into place as it should be. And the path that God has for each and every one of us through our lives. So I don't have to worry about the day-to-day things, as I was mentioning earlier, the fear that I was having, which I focused on a lot during this 3 hours. But it made me feel comforted to know that the Lord is for us and not against us, and He walks with us, and we don't have to worry about the everyday worries of life. As long as we're focusing on Him, He gives us that peace that we're looking for. And I found that a lot through this experience. That aspiration, the aspects of His relationship that I've focused on, like I said, I focus a lot on fear. I looked up fear scriptures throughout the Bible, and it did help, and it gave me the courage and to know that God is graceful and has mercy for us, and He's only doing things for our good. And although we see things in the day-to-day in a microscope, but He sees the world through a telescope, and that was encouraging to know that I don't have to know the big picture, and I can just put my faith in Him, which I struggled with in the past. So I look forward to focusing more on Him in the future. And that's why I enjoyed this exercise so much, is because it left me feeling like I was in the right place, and I didn't have to worry as much. So my personal characteristics and relationship in regards to relationships with others, my prayers, I wanted to pray over my fear and my anger and peace and quiet. I found that silence is a big benefit in my world. Having that time, that one-on-one time with the Lord, and being out in this beautiful world that we live in that God created for us, would allow for that. So the fear comes in as I had a job promotion I'm applying for, and this week I had an interview on Wednesday, and I was a little bit scared, and but I knew I needed to go in there with the confidence and being calm and knowing that the Lord was going before me. And it was kind of crazy. There was a song that I said to myself a while back when I first applied that I was going to listen to the day of the interview. And I couldn't remember the song, and I was listening to Caleb on my way to work. And I was like saying to myself out loud, what is that name of that song? I gotta figure out what the name of the song is. And as soon as I said that aloud, the radio said Fearless. And that was the name of the song. And I was super excited. It just felt like it was like God using the radio to tell me. So I feel like God's been a part of this week through this 3-hour experience that I had. And then right after that, the scripture of the day was also Deuteronomy, and talked about what is it? It's Deuteronomy 31:6. So be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, and do not panic before them. For the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fall nor abandon you. And that's the NLT version of that scripture. And it was just so exciting that everything was just like God was present in every moment of that day. And throughout this week, I've seen him in numerous things. The anger I pray for is I get upset sometimes. I have a short fuse. Sometimes it's my family, and I really want to work on that for the sake of my family and my kids. I grew up in a yelling household, and I don't want them to grow up in that sort of thing. So I'm praying for that to help my family. I'm also praying. I did also want to pray for peace and hope and faith, as my husband is not a Christian and he is lost, and it's a hard thing for me to watch. And I just have to have hope that God is working in his life through little seeds that are being planted every day, and just be able to be okay with that, and knowing that he'll get there, because I want it sooner than it's happening, but just knowing that God is working, and to have peace in that, and to have hope that he will eventually get there, so that way he has direction and happiness in his life as much as I feel like I do. This experience affected me in a great way. It was so awesome. For part of this, I went down the hill and sat on the edge, and the wind was blowing, and I became like a poet. I watched the trees dance in the wind like they were dancing to the Lord's breath. It was so nice. And then the sun was just rising, so it allowed me the opportunity to feel like God was using the sun to gently kiss my cheek. And then I closed my eyes, and the warmth of the sun felt like God was actually holding me, and I actually started crying, and it was just amazing, the feeling of God's presence. And then I got this urge to lay down on the ground and become one with the earth. And I know this is for men, because women were created through Adam's rib, but becoming one with the earth as we were made from dust. And then right at the right moment when the wind was coming by, I sat up and I took a deep breath, like God was just taking a breath and giving me renewed life. It was very powerful, and it helped a lot to have these experiences in this time. So I encourage everybody to do it, and I would like to do this on a regular basis. And as far as future work, if I have the opportunity, one, I think it will help if I do it on a regular basis to help the clients, because I'll be in a good place. I'll be clear and have peace in my heart and that comfort of God to guide me. And two, if I have the opportunity to do this with clients, not the exact same thing, but being out in the nature and allowing them to have their own experiences, I would love to do something like that. So I appreciate your time, and I'm super excited that this was a wonderful experience, and I look forward to doing these more in the future. Thank you.